Good afternoon and welcome to today's In Conversation With session. At NatWest, our purpose is to champion enterprise by helping to remove the barriers that too many face. We have an ambition to remove those barriers and support more businesses to succeed. There are a few ways in which we provide support to small businesses. One of these being our Business Builder, which helps businesses with digital and event-based learning. Business Builder also offers a digital community from which you can grow your network and learn from your peers. Also, our Digital Business Hub provides content relevant for your business in the form of articles, videos, and toolkits, which provide intelligent and practical solutions to everyday business challenges. If you have a business need and want to know more about the ways we may be able to support, then please do feel free to get in touch. Thank you for joining us for today's In Conversation With session. As part of these sessions, you'll hear the inspiring journeys of relatable entrepreneurs, learn what motivates them, as well as the hows and whys of building their business dreams as they share their learnings with you. Before I introduce today's guest, just a bit of housekeeping. Please feel free to use the comment functions to connect with each other by sharing who you are, where you're from, and your business. I have lots of questions for today's guest, but I will also ask your questions, so please do post them in the comment section as we go. And now I'm extremely excited to welcome Sharena Shiv, who is the founder of Devotion Property Management, Aston Women in Business, and most recently, the Startup Start Now podcast. Sharena is ex-Microsoft and NatWest Group, as well as holding an undergraduate Bachelor of Science Business and Management degree from Aston University. And she's also currently studying towards a Master's in Entrepreneurship at Cambridge Judge Business School, which is part of Cambridge University. Sharena has been championing for gender equality in the workplace since 2014, when she founded Aston Women in Business Society, influencing over 1,500 young females. Sharena's achievements to date have been recognised by Deborah Meaden and Jamal Edwards MBE, and in 2017, Sharena was named the UK's top 50 brightest young leaders by Henley Business School. Her work aims to raise awareness of entrepreneurship and highlight gender inequality. Her goal is to support and develop aspiring entrepreneurs by showcasing knowledge gems from real and relatable entrepreneurs living in the UK. So welcome, Sharena. How are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. Oh, it's so nice to kind of be back and talking to you. And yeah, really, really excited for our conversation today. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm really well, thank you. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm going to kick off with our first question, as I know we're both chatters. And so I want to make sure that we get through our questions. So first of all, you studied business and management at university. So was starting a business always something you aimed for?
I definitely would say so, yeah. I've had kind of a passion of starting a business from a really young age. And I think studying it, so being from a background in a home where my family, ran a business, also other aunties and uncles that were in business themselves, that was kind of the first insight into the business world. And then actually a subject that I enjoyed at school and that I was good at school was kind of what stood out to me. So I started studying it from GCSE level, then went and did an A-level and a BTEC national diploma in it, and then went on to university to do it for an undergrad. So definitely it was a good choice, and it was a subject I enjoyed. And actually going to university, so I'm from Exeter and I went to university in Aston. It was kind of the first time to step out of my comfort zone, step out of my kind of home comforts, and kind of live that university life and meet new people from around the country and around the globe. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And interesting that you mentioned that your dad and sort of a lot of your family members had businesses, because one of the things we've really been focusing on and thinking about is the importance of diversity, but also representation. So do you think that the fact that your family members owned businesses was important for inspiring you to start your business? And what do you think of that whole, what would you say about the importance of representation for aspiring business owners?
Definitely. So again, I can sort of talk about my dad's journey. He came to this country at a very young age, 18, and really kind of coming from South Africa and coming to the UK to start a business, seeing that kind of the struggle and the achievement that he's been able to do in that, and having that kind of role model at home meant that, for us, when we're here in the UK, educated here, it was it's an easier path to get on. So if he's been able to accomplish that coming from a different country, having that to look forward to, and that aspiration was something that I was very lucky to have at home and see. So yeah, I would absolutely say so.
Thank you. We've very early on had a question from our audience, which is great. So thank you, Mark. So with like having to do so much work and studying, how do you maintain a work-life balance? And I'm going to rephrase that and say, do you maintain a work-life balance?
Yes, I do, because I think in order to get all the jobs I need to do. So, for instance, I'm studying towards a master's, as you said, currently doing devotion property management, and then obviously doing the podcast as a passion project and something that I see, will continue and become very fruitful. It's important to have that work-life balance. And I think the way that I am able to do that is just a few years ago, I took up running. It sort of started as something that I saw other people doing on the road. And I was like, how are they doing that? And how are they getting out and about? And it was something that has given me an opportunity to kind of listen to podcasts when I'm, away from screen time, away from my phone. So I would say like running is a big thing for my work-life balance. I'm now in Cambridge, and having a bike and cycling is really important. Like everyone has a bike here. So, making sure I get out and I see the city and I'm exploring is something that's really important. And then making sure that I've got time for friends and family and, all those people that put really good energy into me. So yeah, work-life balance for me is something that I equally work on, as well as the businesses. And I think you need to have both of them, really go hand in hand.
To make sure the things that kind of give you joy and you're passionate about are as focused on as the work side.
Definitely. There's the days where I feel like I'm not winning in the work side. It's probably the days that I haven't been out for a walk, haven't done a run, and I'm kicking myself and I'm going, why haven't I done that? And it's like, oh, it's because you haven't switched off and you haven't taken time to focus on other things. So yeah, I think that both are really important, and they go hand in hand. You can't be successful in business if you are not taking care of yourself, your mental health, the people around you, your foundation blocks.
Definitely. Thank you. So I just wanted to talk, obviously this week, it was International Women's Day on Monday, and you've long advocated for gender equality ever since, I could say, quite a young age, younger than most people even become aware that it's an issue. But can you tell me what was it that led you to founding Aston Women in Business Society, and why gender equality is so important to you?
So first of all, happy International Women's Day, happy International Women's Month. Absolutely. I think, fighting for gender equality is the importance of just basic equality, and who shouldn't stand up for that. I think it first came to light with me when being at Aston University, we all do placement years, and I decided to go to Microsoft, and I was working in sales. So it was the first time that I'd kind of entered the corporate world. Previously in school, I'd been, 50% female, 50% male. You get to university, you're in the lecture theatre, 50%, 50%, and then you go to the workplace. And I was sort of questioning, how come, first of all, the lack of females there, and then also, and then realising a person of colour and being in that minority in kind of all senses in the room. It was from conversations that I was having with other girls that were also on their placement years at IBM and Amazon and lots of different places. And we were sort of saying, hang on, we're all noticing this. Why have we never been told about this? Like, why are we only realizing this at the age of 20? And, we've never had a schooling class on it, and this is the time before This Girl Can, and the gender pay gap is now something that companies mandatory need to report on. This was a long time before that. So I attended a Women in Tech event in central London whilst working at Microsoft, had sort of seen some of the synergies they were talking about, matched up with my experience and what other people were experiencing. And the one message that they gave us was, what can you do in your communities to help with this? And I was thinking, well, the fact it's never come to light that we've, not talked about it, what can I do? And that was when speaking with a few friends, putting out literally one Facebook post that we had made saying Aston Women in Business. And we got so many girls that signed up to say that they wanted to be part of it. So yeah, built the society over the summer holidays, a few phone calls, and we've literally booked a whole term's worth of events from, you know, women that had done amazing things. So the society is like 3 elements. The first thing is connecting them. So, you know, the girls to be able to have those discussions, work alongside each other, build a network. The second part is sharing. So getting those influential women from, you know, these big companies to come in and talk about their experience and their journeys, their hardships. And then the last one, kind of aspiring. So where are the girls now? Where do they want to be? And what can we do to kind of help them on that journey? And we had a real sort of struggle initially when we started back in 2014. Like, the union was pushing back and sort of saying, is this necessary? We had guys on Freshers Week going, oh, well, where's the men in business societies and things like that.
And they're predictable with those questions, aren't they?
Yeah. But the thing is, it put us at a young age where we had to have answers for that. And, you know, and again, there was no data to back any of this stuff up. And arguably, there's still not enough data in this area. So, you know, I felt like the work that the girls had done, you know, was amazing. And now it's in its 7th year. And as you've introed with how many people, females it's gone on to support, I think the most amazing thing and the most rewarding thing for me, and the reason I still keep very close to it, is because out of those 7 years, all of those women that have joined the society, been part of the network and perhaps been a president, vice president, you know, finance exec on it, when they go into their workplaces, they then start joining the women's boards, the diversity and inclusion pieces, and they start then making a change in their organizations. So then it goes away from the kind of HR tick box exercise, and they're the ones that are passionate about it because they've experienced it, they've been in those rooms, and then they're going and, you know, embedding that in companies. And what does that has a massive effect on kind of, you know, the rest of the job market. So yeah, it's been, you know, something I enjoy doing, and I really see the success of the society when we don't need to have a society called Aston Women in Business anymore. You know, when that doesn't exist, our job is done. Until then, we will keep talking about it and pushing back and kind of being the change that we want to see.
Thank you. That was a brilliant answer. And I wish I'd been at university with you to benefit from the Aston Women in Business Society.
I
can join now. So our audience probably won't know this, but I know obviously we've known each other for a number of years, almost, I think, about 5 years, which scares me because we don't look old enough when you used to work for the NatWest Group. And obviously you also mentioned that you worked for Microsoft as well. So can you just tell us a bit more about your experience of working for corporates, and during that time, were there any skills that you feel you gained that you were able to bring into being a business owner?
So, you know, I owe a lot to my corporate experience. I'm really proud to have worked for some amazing companies. And I guess there's obviously those kind of softer transferable skills, which are, you know, the organization, the time management. But I think the things that I've really taken away from these companies is the fact that the relationship part, and it's something I do in my day job a lot. So, you know, working with landlords, working with tenants, really being able to communicate effectively with them is something that corporate really got me ready for. I found I was working a lot with kind of executives or, you know, our high value customers. So I did 3 rotations. My first one was in real estate finance. My second one was in the female entrepreneurship space, and that's where I met yourself. And my third one was in Coutts Bank and working on the wealth management. So the importance of always seeing how much NatWest valued their customers was something, and that how you go about building relationships is exactly a skill that I've then been able to embed. I would also say using my intuition. So I found a lot of the time that I was working with high profile people within the bank, and perhaps sometimes not always having the time to necessarily sit down and go through projects. And they were, you know, they gave us a lot of independency to think ahead and to plan ahead. And that kind of intuition is something, and the problem solving is what I'm having to do time in, time out. And, you know, I think that was kind of some really valuable stuff that I took away from the corporate world. Amongst the network, you know, the network has probably been the most important thing. The fact that I can touch base with you, the fact that I had one of my grad friends on the podcast, she now runs the London hub. And, it's amazing to see the journeys that my grad friends have gone on. One of them has invited me to her wedding next year. So that kind of community and that, feel good factor, and just, corporate experience was amazing, and lots of transferable skills.
Thank you. And one of our audience members is really interested in your property business and what you've done there. So can you tell us a bit more about what the circumstances were that motivated you to starting Devotion Property Management, and what it is that the business actually does?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess if I kind of take you back some years before, so whilst living in Exeter, whilst doing A-levels and my BTEC National Diploma, I joined an amazing company as part-time. I lied to them and said I wanted to do a week's work experience in the hope that they would give me a job at the end of it. And they did. It then turned into becoming a Saturday girl for them. And they're called Wilkinson Grant Estate Agency. So from the age of kind of 17 all the way up to working at NatWest, which was about 22, whilst I was living in Exeter, the Saturday girl, then I became summer holidays. I was working at the estate agency and I had a good idea of the different departments. And the running joke is I've pretty much worked in all of their departments, from sales to lettings to surveyors, their finance team. And the really nice thing was having that experience. So, probably people are thinking, oh, you've worked in banking, but where does the property relationship come from? And again, that was from that part-time job. Also kind of growing up with a family who rented properties and being around always fixing things. So my dad is the person who doesn't like to pay for anyone to do a job. So my Saturdays and my summer holidays was like painting rooms, tiling, carpeting. I actually went to the workplace and just in life thinking everyone did this. You don't know how to carpet? Are you sure? And realizing that those kind of life skills that I'd always been around. So I guess, coming back to your question of what drew me to end up there, was an amalgamation of NatWest and the rotations I was in. So, being in the real estate finance and having an idea of that, the past experience of working for the estate agency, the pure enjoyment of being very hands-on as opposed to someone who's super desky and like doing Excel and things like that. And then having lived in Birmingham and London and lived in shared accommodation, I really saw a gap where Exeter wasn't fully taking advantage of this. So we've obviously now got a growing aging population where people are not buying homes till later on in their life, their first homes, 30 to 35. And we still, and I'm putting myself in that category, we still want to live in lovely places with good furniture, a double bed, a TV, luxury things, a nice kitted out kitchen. And I saw the kind of gap that, how are London and Birmingham doing that? Is that something I can take home and implement down south? So what I do is I convert family homes of 3 to 4 beds into multiple lets. So having professionals, and I targeted companies like the Met Office, Southwest Water, Flybe for their tenants to come and live in the properties. So I guess what drove me there as well, when I was doing my long days at NatWest, I was then going home and I was living with 2 entrepreneurs that had an online beer subscription company, Honest Brew, Annabelle and Andrew. And I just used to love how much, their day would end really late, but they were just so passionate about it. And then kind of the second rotation when I was working with the female entrepreneurs and in your hubs and seeing the good energy. And I was like, how do I get involved with that? Like, this is what I studied. How do I plan that roadmap? So yeah, I guess it was kind of a lot of things that were kind of going on in the world, a lot of things. And I tried to look for a business that was as close to my heart and tangible that I could do. And take that model from an experience or a problem, not finding that style of accommodation effectively working in the Southwest, and trying to implement that myself.
Thank you. And when you first started on your business journey, what would you say the hardest lessons were that you had to learn? And with that in mind, what advice would you give to other business owners that are at an earlier stage, or indeed if you could go back and give that advice to yourself?
So I would say quite early on, again, having living in these thriving cities with lots of young graduates and a lot of the people that I went to Aston with migrated to London, and we were all in East London. And I would say kind of leaving that community was something that I found quite hard, and the relationships that I'd built up. Going back to Exeter, where, you know, yes, there was my school friends, yes, there was, you know, my part-time job community, but at the time, Exeter didn't have a massive young female sort of network and a young hub. You know, we didn't have a NatWest hub like you guys offer in major cities, although I have heard that Exeter might be on the pipeline. So I hope so anyway. So I think I probably really struggled with like the loneliness and feeling like just myself on the journey. And I didn't tell a lot of people I was moving back, and I just wanted to really work on my craft and kind of make sure that, you know, I could get to this position where I can talk about it today. But that wasn't really the case in the first and the second year. And I would very much say, yeah, I would say the kind of the loneliness and not having that community was something that's, you know, I struggled with. I guess the way I was able to overcome that was reaching out to mentors. So I, again, talking about the estate agency, Roger Wilkinson, a great mentor of mine, someone I met at a young age, relying on him. Also tapping back into the banks network, Heather Melville, Dr. Heather Melville, OBE, long title, you know, her kind of giving me that inspiration and her journey and, you know, what she had been through, that, you know, so finding people that had either been on the journey, were in the space, and I have lots of mentors for different things, you know, and kind of building that network and the team. And then also the people that I interview on the podcast are also other people that have influenced me. They don't even know that just a phone call in a time of need, or there was a problem there, you know, can I chat to you about that? And the journeys they've been on and we've been doing side by side. So yeah, kind of creating my own bubble, my bubble virtually, making sure that I had, you know, those key people. I'm also someone who's not afraid to ask for help when I need it. And I would absolutely say kind of just reaching out to people. And so, yeah, my advice to those that are starting is create your networks, you know, add people on LinkedIn. If you're in your jobs and you eventually want to go off and do something, don't burn any bridges on the way out, you know, have those relationships, because you just don't know when you need them and who's going to help you kind of call upon.
Thank you. So you've had the opportunity to interview 2 female CEOs, which is incredible considering that there aren't as many as in the sort of top 100 that we would hope. But can you tell us what those experiences meant to you, and also has being able to interview female CEOs influenced the way you think about female leadership?
Okay, so it's only one CEO at the minute. I think you've done a little spoiler. It will be 2 very soon. So you heard it here first.
Apologies.
Sneak preview. So yeah, you're right. At the moment in the UK, for a FTSE 100 companies, there is currently only 5 CEOs, and very proud that NatWest has one of them. And Alison Rose is the first female CEO of a major high street bank. So yeah, whilst I was on my graduate scheme, it's actually a really funny story. So I ended up in my second rotation again working with the female entrepreneurs, and Alison Rose is an incredible woman. She's, you know, not only become the CEO of the bank, but her whole journey as starting as a graduate really makes it even more kind of believable, because you can see, if you know, if you work hard and you start at a young age, where you can end up. So she was doing an event in Scotland, and it was a conference. I was sent up to go and watch it, and at the end of it, she was waiting for her taxi, and I kind of like flagged it down and was like, Alison, can you come and talk to the crowd? And she said, absolutely. No, of course. Like, you know, here's my email address. Send me an email. We'll fix a date and a time. And she honoured it. And we got all the grads together. And we had a very good kind of open event where it was literally no questions were off limit, almost like an Oprah, Harry, Meghan. No, I'm joking. But, you know, she was really open to ask anything. She was extremely personable. She talked about, you know, who her role models were in her life, the things that she had done along the way. And the reason I admire her the most is, you know, I talked early on about the lack of data that is around female entrepreneurship. And she's someone who's not just made her way up there, but she's left the ladder there for the rest of us to kind of climb up it. She's not pulled it up behind her. So she keeps talking about the elephant in the room and the work that needs to be done with, female entrepreneurs and, the lack of finance. I think, the figure was something like female entrepreneurs only get 3 pence in a pound. And she keeps talking about it. And, and I love how she talks about what difference will it make to the UK economy if we had more female, founders. And so I guess incredible woman to interview. Love her journey. I love the fact that she keeps advocating for females. She's not afraid to talk about it. And she's living proof that things can get done.
No, thank you. Bailey's commented saying love the boldness, and I just wanted to say that I think it also shows that sometimes you just have to take that risk or go for that, just be brave and ask that question, and if the answer's no, it's a shame, but you're no worse off.
I'm a big believer in that. You don't ask, you don't get. It is just a simple fact of life, and people are willing to help and people are willing to be there. So feel free to, ambush people as they're getting in taxis.
Maybe use a slightly more relaxed word than ambush. but approach politely.
And again, do you know how we talk about the elevator pitch? That was a moment where, I had to sell to her why she needed to come and speak to the grads, what was the case. And you will find yourself in that in life from time to time, and just making sure you've got your good elevator pitch and, you can, get there is really important.
No, exactly. And I think the amount of people who say that having that in mind and having it ready has really helped them to get those opportunities, because they're able to concisely just ask for what they want, and almost who can say no to that?
Exactly.
So you've been recognised by some big names in the business world, including Deborah Meaden and Jamal Edwards MBE, as well as being named one of the UK's top 50 brightest young leaders. What does it mean to you to be recognised for the work that you've done?
No, it's amazing. It's really lovely, and I think it's nice to be kind of recognised for the work that you put in, and it also kind of gives you that confident boost and, allows me to, but I think the biggest thing is it kind of shows me the work that I can then do to play forward and how I can help others because of that recognition. Deborah Meaden, I met her back in 2008. I was the president for the Young Chamber of Commerce, which every city has a chamber of commerce. And again, from a young age, making sure I was getting in front of business people and talking about what young people wanted to see happen in Exeter. And from that, I won the Excellence in Exeter Award, and, was kindly given the award by Deborah Meaden. She does a lot in the Southwest. So that was my first insight into a celebrity or a business celebrity at a young age. And again, that kind of gives you that motivation and that hunger to do more. And then Jamal Edwards a little bit more recently through the Henley Business School recognition. And he was amazing because his journey is just incredible, everything he does. And again, he brought a host of his friends and guests to come and talk to us, and we had a very open debate about what the digital age for entrepreneurs look like and kind of what we can be doing in that space. The recognitions are incredible. It kind of reminds me why I'm working hard every day. And then it also kind of makes me think of what can I do for others? How can I help others in this space?
Well, funny you should say that, because one of our audience members is really keen for some help from you. Aklak has asked if it would be possible to get some help from yourself, or guessing he maybe wants to have a chat or some advice. So is that something that would be possible?
Absolutely. No, I'd be more than happy to help. I'm on all social medias at Sharena Shiv. LinkedIn's another great place to find me. And I'm absolutely going to plug the podcast, Startup Start Now. So...
Well, interestingly enough, that's my next question. So it's like you're preempting me. So obviously you did found the Startup Start Now podcast last year, which we all know it was a particularly difficult year for everybody, but especially for businesses and for people who were thinking about starting up. But what inspired you to start the podcast, and what are some of the key things that the guests you've had on shared with you about, I guess, their own business journeys.
So yeah, as you said, last year was a really, really terrible time for a lot of people, and we all found ourselves at home and questioning what we were doing. I know certainly in the portfolio of Devotion Property Management, I had some tenants leave as a result of Flybe, the way that had gone, and so we were all affected in very different ways. However, it meant that we were at home. It was the first time we were not traveling. It was the first time we could put ourselves first. And we were all, questioning, the day job that you do, is there scope to do other things? I'm now not traveling an hour and a half or, whatever the average commuter time is. And finding that time back. And very early on of lockdown, a lot of people were inviting me to new little small business pages that they had set up. So their art, or whether they were, doing makeup or whatever it was. And I just thought, this is brilliant. The start of lockdown, people are getting super creative. And I then put myself in the situation as like, how could I help those people? And, for the last 4 years I've been on that journey, I've probably overcome some things. And how do I help those that are very early on in their journey kind of perhaps avoid some of the slips and trips that I've had? And I wanted to just have very kind of open conversations. So together, thinking about what that could look like. So podcasting was recommended to me by my old housemates before I left London, Annabelle and Andrew. They said, listen to these podcasts, but the ones that they were referring to were all American ones. I really struggled to find that kind of UK relatable, podcast. So the Tim Ferriss podcast. And I, admire people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk. But the issue with that is, that's brilliant. Your story is incredible, but it's also not where I need to be. How do I ask the questions and delve deeper into the little problems that you start with, like how to build a website, how to do a tax return, or, what led you to where you were and what you started. That's kind of where Startup Start Now started. So on the podcast, we talk about journeys. We talk about everything from, because you don't just wake up and go, I've become an entrepreneur. That just doesn't happen. There is things that happen in your life, and there's problems that you're trying to solve that lead you there. So the podcast has given me an amazing opportunity to interview lots of incredible people, as I said, friends, but touch base with, for instance, I've got a 19-year-old that at the start of the pandemic, when masks were coming to light, he was like, what can I do in this space? Started manufacturing masks in the UK. Amazing. You've got AJ and Stormzy's barber, and I love his story, how he talks about everything he did with when he was trying to get money for his new shop. He would talk in the barbershop about the aspirations he had of having a business. And sometimes when we're like working on our own ventures, we don't tell people, but he really made me look at things very differently. Like, talk about what you love, talk about what you do, get people drawn in. And all of a sudden he got a lot of funding off the back of that, and he was able to open his own barbershop. So yeah, just kind of finding super interesting people up and down the UK that are doing amazing things. It's great because they get to share their story, their insights, their journeys, but then also vice versa, the people that need that advice, need those UK relatable role models. There we go. They have them as a touch point. And we do need to get away from the computer. We do need to get away from work. And if you're out and about and you're going for a walk or you're going for a long drive, obviously not at the moment because we're still in lockdown, but when you're taking your one walk a day, it's about putting your headphones in. It's about listening to the podcast and kind of find yourself thinking about what you could do to start up. And the really interesting thing, sorry, I know I'm probably talking about this a lot, but but the whole concept of start now is very early on. You probably already have the idea. You probably already have been thinking about it for a little while. It's something you're passionate about. The only thing that's stopping you is yourself. We'll talk about that as well. Why are you yourself? What more can you be doing? And the name itself is Startup Start Now. Stop messing around and just get on with it. And we'll all be here to help you on that journey.
Thank you. It sounds really inspirational. So for our audience, where can we find the podcast, and when's the next episode out?
Amazing. So yes, I'm on all major podcasting platforms. So you've got sounded so Spotify, you've got Apple Podcasts. Honestly, everything. You just need to type in the word startup, start now, and you'll find it. I've just wrapped up. I say we've just wrapped up season 2. And yeah, it's kind of, I'm going to take a little bit of a break for a few weeks and then back into season 3. And I also wanted to sort of reach out and say, I've been working with a few fantastic girls on this project as well who have helped out with the marketing. They've been there at the end of the phone. A lot of people think that these things you do by yourself, but I'm really lucky that a couple of girls that are at Aston University at the minute who are studying, in their second year and their final year, who have wanted some real life work experience. I've been able to help them on the sort of the marketing side, and in exchange for, just kind of helping them with their career progressions. And I'm really proud. One of them has now bagged a placement at L'Oreal. The other one is looking for a marketing job. So if anyone's got any jobs out there, please be in touch. But I think I just wanted to almost touch on this part as well about kind of mentoring and a two-way relationship, and really working with younger people as well, because they bring me a lot of kind of energy and insight as to what they need. And that kind of keeps me in check of making sure that I'm creating content for a new generation as well. So yeah, anybody who's thinking of starting a business, perhaps, hasn't got the funding behind that, utilize everyone around. It's a two-way relationship from someone who needs that tangible work experience, and they can go into an interview and talk about that, versus you've got the knowledge and you can kind of help them on that. So yeah, that's also something worth calling out.
Thank you. My next question is, with regards to, I guess, entrepreneurship, you're currently studying entrepreneurship at Cambridge. What is it that fascinates you about entrepreneurship and that has made you want to go and sort of undertake that further study?
So yeah, it is a fascination. It's a subject that I find myself listening to podcasts, reading, speaking to other people and getting inside their brains. And I think in order to talk about and be an expert in this field, I felt that I needed to go back to university. I felt I needed to further my studies in this area and really kind of marry up that experience of having the life experience of the business, but then actually formalizing that with some education. And partly I went back to see whether Cambridge were teaching what reality was. And I'm really proud that they are. In the second day, we were talking about the lack of female funding. And I thought, brilliant, you're calling out the elephant in the room so early on. And, I think business studies as a whole is so vast. There's so many just different facets that you can get into. And I've, been in an experience where I'm learning about like an offline business. And now I'm trying to move into more of an online business. So I guess modules around big data are of interest, and something I've not had sight of before, raising finance, modules like that. And I guess, the fascination also comes with, I talk about, needing to widen my network. I'm now in a class with 60 people and from 36 different countries. So I've got those relationships with people from around the world. That are just doing incredible things, people that have worked with Steve Jobs, that have used to head up NATO, just incredible, doing amazing things in their fields. And what I'm finding is there's so much that we're learning from each other. So I think that exchange of knowledge, widening the kind of network, and then, marrying that up and with getting a formal qualification, and in order to go and I think it's really important as a woman, when not just as a woman, as anybody, when you are trying to advocate and you're trying to teach in a space, you need to have that kind of knowledge behind you, that recognition. And I really think that's kind of another reason. And I'm a curious person. I want to keep learning. So yeah.
Okay, so what is next for you, or what are you focusing on right now?
So there's a lot of plates juggling at the moment. I'm focusing on just doing them and doing them well right now. I'm also focusing on enjoying what I'm doing. So I moved to Cambridge in September. I'm still exploring the city. I'm still, creating relationships here. I have got the podcast show, which is keeping me busy. It's the first time I'm having to manage the business from afar. So it's the first time I've moved out of Exeter, and I'm, realizing my communication skills needs to be stronger. The contractors that I'm working with, are they able to deliver on the projects that I need to? Oh, there's move outs happening, and kind of, I'm trying to prove that I can, do this job from afar and rely on the relationships that I've been building for the last 4 years. So I guess right now I just want to focus on, getting the jobs done. And, if my dad's listening, I want to get a master's, that's also really important. But I think moreover, it's just kind of, I don't know about you, but I am certainly someone who always plans 5-10 years in advance. And I have been doing that from such a young age. Right now, I just want to appreciate, especially with COVID, the here and the now, the opportunities, checking in on friends, looking after myself, all of that good stuff. And basically just, really living in the moment and not planning too far ahead. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that all of us can take away from what happened last year.
Definitely. I think we do get so caught up in whether it be sort of regretting things that have happened in the past or worrying about what's going to happen in the future. And it's definitely been nice to kind of sit and just live in the present and be present and think, how am I feeling now, rather than stressing about those things.
Definitely. Have you taken any hobbies up during lockdown? Or
this interview is not about me, it's about you, Sharena.
Sorry, I felt like I was doing the podcast.
But no, I guess you've mentioned podcasts quite a bit today. So I wanted to ask, other than Start Up, Start Now, what is your favorite podcast?
Oh, good question. So I love Jamila Jamil. She's got a really good podcast. Fern Cotton's The Happy Place is a really good podcast. Who else do I listen to? I listen to a few property ones. So if anybody's interested, The Property Hub is a really good podcast. Yeah, I would say those. Fern Cotton's one, The Happy Place, has been really good during lockdown. If people are thinking about sort of mental health and mindset, she has an incredible guest. So does Jamila Jamil. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No, those are some really great ones. So I'm sure our audience will look out for them. But you've been a really fantastic guest. I have one more question, unless any of our audience want to ask anything, but I'll crack on with mine and see. But obviously we mentioned that International Women's Day was on Monday. And for those who don't know, this year's theme is Choose to Challenge. What does choosing to challenge mean to you? And what would you advise some of our, I guess, female entrepreneur audience?
So I guess Choose to Challenge is a great topic. I love the fact that they change it every year. I guess for me this year, my main focus will be around pushing the female funding agenda. So I want to be speaking to venture capitalists. I want to be speaking to investors to push back and ask those, have those conversations with them as to why there's not been, a spotlight shed on this, and why there's not enough activity happening in this place. And really hope to kind of help with statistics around that. So yeah, I would say, shedding a light on the lack of female entrepreneurship funding. Again, I will continue to challenge conversations. And I just ask, we talk about all that women need to do. I think also it's really important to highlight what men can do in this place as well. And they need to, we can't do it without having them on the journey with. So, if you're a brother, a father, an uncle, it's checking in on your female counterparts and kind of, if you're going for a promotion yourself and there's other people, it's about asking, well, is my counterpart going to be paid the same? If there is an opportunity of a job that they see, showing that to females. So I think there's a lot that we can do, helping men on the journey, and also making sure that I'm sort of pushing back and finding out why have we got a problem in this area that we just don't want to talk about. And female entrepreneurship funding.
No, thank you. And I guess through challenging these things, challenging the status quo, that's the only way that we'll ever see change. So thank you for your answer.
And there must be a reason for why they don't want to talk about it. So, let's find out why that is.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined today. I'm sure you'll joining me in thanking Sharena for being such a great guest and sharing so many inspiring and insightful tips. We're back in a month's time on the 14th of April, where we'll be joined by Dr. Joanna Abeyi, MBE. The go-getting 33-year-old has blazed a trail as a multi-award-winning social impact entrepreneur, champion of diversity, inclusion and equality, as well as making a mark as an award-winning journalist and broadcaster. So don't miss it. But until then, stay safe and stay blessed.